Hello, dear friends and sequestered mystics and magicians. This is my subtle announcement that we're on chapter 13 of My Life with the Spirits today. Hope you're all well and have settled in for the next chapter. It's called Nedura and the Procession of Elves. When I was 11, I was quite impressed by an odd little Disney film called Darby O'Gill and the Little People. It's a tale of a crusty old storyteller prone to taking a nip or two, played marvelously by Albert Sharp, who manages to capture the king of the leprechauns. In exchange for his freedom, the king grants him 3 wishes, all of which naturally backfire. It's a cute story designed to delight 11-year-olds, but it struck a deep chord in me. Somehow, even though I was cynical about God and Jesus, I found it very easy to believe that there might be some truth behind the legends of elves and fairies and leprechauns. If they existed, I wanted to see them. I even tried to induce an altered state of consciousness by exhausting myself on my bicycle in the secluded wilds of Pawnee Park. I never saw anything stranger than mosquitoes. Still, I might have been on the right track. It's been my experience that most of my significant mystical adventures are triggered by trauma. Perhaps this is true only for the most base and unevolved individuals who need to be beaten over the head before they loosen up. It's certainly true for me. Very early in my magical career, following a trauma of sorts, I had a very vivid encounter with a most curious creature. The 9-month period prior to my initiation into the OTO was perhaps the most traumatic time of my life. We were painfully poor, and my prospects, as usual, were dismal. My occult studies were a welcome escape, and I used them precisely for that purpose. I was especially passionate about my BOTA lessons and was about to begin painting the 22 cards of the major arcana. One afternoon, Constance and I took the baby and drove to the market to buy whatever we could with the $15 I had just earned from giving guitar lessons. Constance, as usual, was a wise and frugal shopper and managed to spend less than $10. Using a coupon, she even bought us a special treat of half a pound of freshly ground Ethiopian Harar coffee, my last remaining drug of choice. I couldn't wait to get home, get wired, and paint my first tarot card. Unfortunately, when we arrived home, we discovered that, in the confusion of putting the baby in the car, we left our bag of precious groceries in the shopping cart. I got in the car and sped back to the store. It was too late. Our groceries were gone. I was furious. I was sick. I was crazy. I went back in the store and with our last $5 bought the baby's vegetables, and in an act of obscene selfishness, I bought another half pound of Ethiopian Harar. I was so upset that I could hardly drive, which was probably a good thing because I ran out of gas about 6 blocks from home. With no money for gas, I abandoned the car and walked home. I handed Constance the baby's vegetables and without a word headed straight for the espresso machine. I packed it tightly full of that incredible coffee and stared at it till the mad hissing stopped. I poured myself a triple shot and locked myself in the bedroom with my paints and my tarot cards. I finished the Fool card in about 2 hours. It was beautiful. After slugging down another triple espresso, I set my beautiful Fool upon my little altar and stared at it until bedtime. Even though I was wired to the gills, I was very sleepy. I apologized to Constance for my crabbiness and fell instantly asleep. A chain of meaningless, unrelated dreams eventually put me behind the wheel of my car. I had to get it home. I had never abandoned it before. It wouldn't start, of course. It was out of gas. I got out of the car to do God knows what and bumped into what I could only describe as a leprechaun. He was about 8 inches high, wore a black suit and a top hat that had been crushed to a comic angle. I sat down in the street to get a better look. He had lamb chop sideburns and a nose like W.C. Fields. He produced a giant size, or at least giant size for him, silver flask, and he unscrewed the top. "I made it myself," he said, as he offered it to me. "One for the road. Drink it all. You never had anything like it. I made it myself." I took the flask and drained it. It had the smell and taste of fine whiskey, but without any of the bite or burn. I became instantly drunk and was getting drunker by the second. The little man disappeared, and I got back in the car and started it. I put the automatic gear shift to drive, only to find myself moving backwards. I put it in reverse and the whole car slid violently to the right. Finally, I somehow got it going straight ahead, but when I turned the steering wheel to the right, the car moved to the left and vice versa. I didn't know what to do. I slammed on the brakes, which made me go faster. Eventually, I crashed through a chain link fence and drove the car straight into a swimming pool. I opened the door and stepped out of the car and into a shallow pool, and covered in what looked like soap suds. I was no longer drunk. I felt clean and holy, as if I had just been baptized. I waded to the shallow end of the pool and stepped out of the water. The sun was setting, and it colored the sky with a most brilliant array of pastel colors. Everything in the vision was pastel. I saw no primary colors. A road skirted the swimming pool. It snaked to the horizon in wide, lazy S's until it narrowed in exaggerated perspective and disappeared completely into the setting sun. I was witnessing a parade, a disorganized procession of the most exotic and whimsical creatures. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. No two were alike. They were humanoid. Most were tall and slender, but each wore a different style and pastel color costume and hat. Each one was very attractive, but it impossible to determine if they were male or female. The most amazing thing about them was their transparency. I could see through their clothes and I could see through them. I thought to myself, these are elves or fairies. The creatures reacted to my thought with riotous approval and began playing gaily upon bizarre musical instruments. There were thousands of them, stretching all the way to the sun. As they marched past me, they waved and blew kisses. I was absolutely delighted and enchanted. Eventually, one of the elves broke rank and approached me. This one I concluded was female because she was the most delicately beautiful creature I had ever seen. She was very thin and wore sheaths of transparent lavender that alternately clung tightly to her firm little body and then streamed lightly in the air around her. Her skin was a light mauve, and her hair transparent pink, bobbed in a classic pixie cut. She smiled at me, and I recognized her as a mystical friend from 1,000 unremembered dreams. She carried in her hands an octagonal paper box with thousands of little pink wheels printed on the sides. The wheels had spokes like the wheels that adorn the fool's jacket in the zero key of the tarot. I wanted to tell her how happy I was to see her and ask how we could meet again. But before I could phrase the words, she handed me the box and removed the lid. Whenever you want to be with me, you need only look into the box and say. Suddenly from nowhere, a cosmic organist played an arpeggio. Taking it as her cue, she sang the following song to the tune of Silver bells, it's Christmas time in the city. Only this time her words were, Nedura, Nedura, play by myself in the rain. It seemed perfectly logical to me at the time. I looked into the box. It was filled a quarter full with fine light lavender powder. As I repeated the words, Nedura, Nedura, play by myself in the rain, my breath kicked up the powder and created great clouds of lavender dust that obscured the whole vision. I don't know what any of this meant, but I suddenly became aware that I was experiencing a vision. I knew that if I could wake myself up fast enough, I'd be able to write it all down before I forgot it. I didn't want to lose Nedura again. As I fought to regain consciousness, I looked at the little wheels on the box. They were turning. The whole field of my vision was filled with turning wheels. I opened my eyes and still saw them turning on the walls and ceiling of my bedroom. I reached over and turned on the lamp. I could see everything in the room clearly, but I also continued to see thousands of turning wheels superimposed upon everything. I grabbed a pencil and an envelope I was using as a bookmark and quickly wrote down everything I could remember. Eventually the wheels disappeared from my vision. Before I went back to sleep, I got up and turned the Fool card face down on the altar. Nedura never visited me again, at least as far as I can remember. For years, I tried in vain to invoke and evoke her by chanting her crazy little song while visualizing that octagonal box. I investigated her name using the Hebrew and Greek Kabbalah and failed to find anything of significance. I even tried to conjure her into a Solomonic triangle and summon her through the rites of which I am forbidden to speak, but to no avail. She remains a mystery. And that's the end of chapter 13 of My Life with the Spirits. I hope to see you all tomorrow for chapter 14 is My Magic Wand. If you've missed any of them so far, don't miss tomorrow's chapter, My Magic Wand. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Do thou wilt should be the whole law. Love is the